space, final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And we're back again, talking about, we're sticking with Barclay. We're talking about more Barclay in Next Gen. So we enjoyed talking about Polar Pursuits last week. So we're talking about the Nth Degree this time. And then we're carrying on with the Dominion War, the preamble to the Dominion War, looking at the acquisition.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly. But we're giving you all the background to how the Dominion War started and the little warnings.
Exactly, the word Dominion is actually spoken in this episode, so
it is.
We're getting there.
We're getting closer.
But first of all, what Trek news have we had this week, then, Elliot? So I've managed to miss all this again.
Well, there's two things that are happening, and it all revolves around Picard. The first one is John Delancey has been tweeting again, and you know how he does his greeting messages to people for the birthdays.
Oh, yeah.
And all that. With greeting messages for birthdays, if you say that you're a Star Trek fan, it tells you a bit about Star Trek. Mm-hmm. So he's been tweeting it, but he's been messaging people going, "Oh, you can see me soon. I'm off to be in 6 episodes of Picard."
Ah.
So it's confirmed he's off to be in 6 episodes in total.
Right.
But he's also said that he's finding it strange, parts of it, like not just how they have to be checked and all that before they're going for filming every day, but they're filming season 2 and season 3 at the same time.
Oh, is that legit? 'Cause I heard that was a rumour.
Yeah. John Delancey has said that he's shooting scenes for both seasons.
Ah, so he's in 6 episodes across 2 seasons.
6 episodes across 2 seasons.
Oh, that's really interesting.
But this tells us that we're going to have John Q for the next 2 years at least.
Yeah, excellent. No, that
regardless of any other shows he might pop up in.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that just made me wonder because she said, if you're a Star Trek fan, he gives you a bit of a Star Trek thing. And I know he's done a fair bit of stuff, but I'm just thinking, who else is going to ask for a cameo from John Delancey?
Well, that's it.
I'm a big fan of that time when you played that dirty gynecologist in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
What was it? I watched a B movie not long since that is in, but it's only in the first 5 minutes.
Right.
Because it's the biggest star in it, it's his name across the top.
He had a good role in Breaking Bad. He had a good little arc there, but I would imagine most of them he gets
as Star Trek fans,
which is fair.
But we've got that confirmed from John Delancey. They're shooting 2 seasons back to back, and he's going to be in 6 episodes over the 2 seasons.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's going to be good fun. But then the other thing that's coming out is, we talked a bit last week about some of the photos that someone had grabbed from Picard, but there's loads of these happening now, and I'm wondering if we should ignore these and not talk about them, because these are proper spoilers. These aren't things that the studio have released, like a trailer, which is normally what we look at with spoilers. So we look at what the stars say, like John Delancey is tweeting about things. But these are people who are just, because they're out going, not on set, on location.
Yeah.
People are grabbing photos of the locations and all that, and they're leaking all this online. And I think that we, as a show, should stay away from that.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you.
Personally, I don't want to watch all these that are coming up on YouTube. I'm actually, there's a channel that I normally follow that I've actually stopped following on YouTube. Already, because they're leaking all these and talking about them.
I'm pretty much there with you. My feeling on spoilers is that if it's something that's released by the network, if it's an official trailer, a poster, whatever, we're not going to be able to ignore that. You're not going to be able to not see it.
Yeah.
Or similarly, if it's something that's endorsed, so it's gone out on someone's Twitter accounts, I don't believe for a second that they're not vetted, and that
I don't believe for 1 second that after what John Delancey had already done, if he was going to be told to stop it, he'd have been told to stop it.
Yeah, exactly. I'd feel pretty safe in saying that if they're going to leak something that way, they have to get it approved first. So yeah, my thought is keep it to official.
And it's not leaking anything about the story or anything. It's just saying,
no, exactly.
I am in 2 seasons and I'm in 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Brilliant. We love that. It's not showing
fine.
up for like it did in Lower Decks for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It's actually going to be a big part of the... Like, if we look at 20 episodes over 2 seasons again, it's in just over a third of the show.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting. So, yeah, on the subject of spoilers then and upcoming stuff, if you feel really, really strongly that you want us to dissect these leaks and everything like that, then let us know. But our feelings on it at the minute is we're going to stick to official stuff and try and ignore... Basically, we're
going to try avoid. Yeah. I'd like to avoid it myself because I like the enjoyment of seeing it for the first time. And
I think if the producers are happy for us as the public to know it, then we'll count it as open season on that, and we'll talk about it as much as you like. But if it's something that's leaked unofficially, we'll tend to avoid it. Unless
it's some Tom, Dick or Harry who've got the mobile phone out as they're walking along the street and taking a photo. We're going to ignore that and we're going to try and avoid them.
So that's our spoiler stance for the time being. We'll see how that holds as we go along. So yeah, let's get into Next Gen then. So the Nth Degree. This is the second appearance of Barclay, season 4. And I think it's another good one. I think I prefer this probably to Hollow Pursuits, but so it's a weird. This is one that I only twigged how weird it was watching it the last time for this. So we start off with what looks like a play. It looks like the play's up and running and everything, and it's Beverly.
Well, to be fair. This could be Barclay back in his Hollow suite.
It could be. We're told. I mean, we're told that he's got better and everything, so we're led to assume that this is legit. But Barclay's there. He's in the full gear. He's got the big nose and everything. So it's Cyrano de Bergerac, and they're doing a scene. Now, I've not seen the play of Cyrano de Bergerac, but this doesn't look like the end of it because it's all sort of still, but then everybody applauds, and then everybody leaves. So it's like, what is this? Is this a dress rehearsal that you've invited everybody to? Or
maybe it's a trailer.
Yeah, trailer. That's good. Yeah, I like it. Like, and Riker's there. Riker's got his Beverly's Play podcast. He's like, I don't know what I should do about spoilers. If anyone cops for Barclay wandering around dressed up as Cyrano de Bergerac, don't upload it to the internet. Yeah, so
they can because it's official, because this is them doing it.
True.
They're putting it out there.
I just don't get it. I mean, maybe is it a play over 2 nights? This is the end of Act 1.
Yeah.
I really don't get what's going on here. And Data turns out he's a right snob in terms of acting. He's like, oh, well, everyone's saying it was good, but it was clearly not rooted in the method approach. Like, how snooty Data? Like, for a start, not everyone has to be a method actor. Obviously you get your famous method actors like, your Christian Bales, your Robert De Niro's, and all of this business and everything. But it is not the only approach to acting. But Data's like, oh, no, he's clearly not done the method. And then I thought about it a bit more, and it's like, well, Cyrano de Bergerac's someone who is sort of ostracized from society, doesn't have any confidence, isn't able to speak to women. It's like, Barclay pretty much has been doing the method for that his whole life. So I think that's...
Well, I also thought about this. Like, he's got a hollow addiction.
Yeah.
Where he creates... Where he does these sort of... enacts things like this with parts of the crew. So they think the best way to cure him is to actually act the parts themselves instead of him creating the characters.
Yeah, this is pretty much, they've dressed him up here like he had the hollow recreations of the crew, yeah. Yeah, it's a bit harsh, really, when you think about that. And then Troy's like, oh, you see, Reg, this is so much better for you than a holodeck. Like, is it?
Is it really? Embarrassing yourself in front of everyone for getting your lines?
Having Data, of all people, critiquing you for not using the correct approach to acting. Like, yeah, that's going to do wonders for his self-esteem, is that? Anyway, so thankfully that's all interrupted, and they find this probe knocking about. And Barclay has this thing where he says, oh, thank you, Geordie, for, including me on this. And Geordie says, oh, you're one of my top engineers, Reg. Even though we've not seen you for a year, and we won't see you for 2 years after this one. But
now, do you think he's still got to do that thing that he was told in Hollow Pursuits, where be friendly to him and act like you're his best mate?
Yeah, that's it. He's still got. He's managed to put it off for ages. Maybe maybe Geordie's got to give like an update to Picard on how it's going. So he's like, I'm going to have to put him in at least one thing. So at least if Picard checks, I can show that I'm involved with him. And, wouldn't you know, it all goes wrong again. So Barclay gets zapped. And
they're trying to, like, what got me is, I still find this, all I've seen is there's a probe. And it's above the Argos array, and the Argos array has stopped working. So they think the best way to do it is to send out a little shuttlecraft when they're in the Enterprise.
Yeah, that often happens, doesn't it? Weirdly.
Yeah, it was sort of like it sort of didn't make. I've watched it twice and I still can't work out. Well, why have you sent the shuttle out there to? Like, every sensor on the Enterprise is... You're very close. Every sensor on the Enterprise is more powerful than shuttles.
Yeah, that's true. And it's not like, for storyline purposes, they need to do it, because Barclay could still get zapped even if he was on the Enterprise. So,
yeah.
There's literally no reason to do it. You're right.
Yeah, and it's like the only... what is it, 1.8 kilometres away from the probe when they send the shuttle out.
Yeah, that's not in space terms. That's pretty much on top of it.
Well, in how fast the Enterprise moves and all that.
Yeah.
And what is it? How long is the Enterprise? Is it about 800 metres long?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, about 1,000 metres. So it's about the twice the length of the Enterprise away from you, and you find it necessary to send a shuttle out from the back to fly around you.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. But, yeah, it's one of them. If the Enterprise would have kept moving as the shuttle came out, it would have been there by time. Or it would have probably been quicker for the Enterprise just to go past it than the shuttle to come out the back, rather than, like you said, round. Yeah, no idea. Maybe this was when...
I think it was just an excuse to get Geordie off. If something goes wrong, take Barclay with you and we finally get rid of him.
Yeah, it could be. I'm thinking maybe it was when they were trying to flog them action figures, and you could get a shuttle playset for your action figures.
So there's just extra shuttle scenes.
Yeah, we need to put extra shuttle scenes in because the kids aren't buying enough of these shuttles. Like, obviously I love Star Trek and I love toys and everything like that, but Star Trek toys were always a little bit weird because the big play set you could get was the bridge. So there's not a lot of play to do with bridge. Like, what do you do?
No.
sit all your figures in the chairs, and you go, right, let's go to this planet. All right, do a scan. Okay, you need to go to Turbolift. You could maybe walk him up to Turbolift, but there's not a lot.
We've been hit by a phaser and sort of shake the whole thing side to side.
Lift it up side to side. Yeah, but they want a lot. Maybe that's why Star Trek figures traditionally have not sold as well as like Star Wars.
Yeah.
You don't get as much of them running around shooting each other and stuff. Anyway, so he gets zapped, and then you get this gradual thing where it's obvious that something's happened, that his brain's working on a higher level. You get the thing, first of all, where he's talking to Beverly, and he's like, well, you could do a scan, and all you need to do is change the...
Yeah, you change this in your...
And she's like, well, you know, you're not a doctor. I'm a doctor. You're an engineer. But he's like, well, it's not that different. So that's like the first hint that something's going to be changing. And I want to call out a pretty cool special effects sequence in this. I think it's probably reused from another episode, but we don't see it that often, which is where the Enterprise changes direction and it sort of pivots back on its axis and then turns round and then shoots off. Or sort of at a 45-degree angle to what it was at previously. And I think maybe they do it in one of the Klingon episodes there, but
yeah, it probably is reused because
they did.
Like the Enterprise, like the models are quite difficult to shoot in doing things like that with getting your camera angles and everything. So if someone's managed to do it. It's probably been an expensive shot to create.
Yeah, exactly.
And I want to use it again.
Over and over, yeah. I mean, as we saw going way back when we were talking about the movies, they reused that Klingon bird of prey blowing up a few times.
Oh.
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I like that anyway. It's cool to see the Enterprise moving in a more dynamic way, which we take for granted now with Discovery and Picard and because CGI ships, they can move them about however they like. But it were pretty special when you saw the Enterprise do something different back in them days. Then there's the bit with the probe and everything, and Barclay boosts the shields and all this, and you get a great scene with Riker where he's like, everyone's wondering how you did it, Reg, and he reels off this really, really long technical explanation. And I love Riker, Jonathan Frakes' reaction where he's like, yep, I see that. Yep. I just think that's great.
Yeah, you haven't got a clue.
It's one of them, really, because it does make Riker look like a bit of a div, because it's like, well, why did you ask Riker if you clearly weren't going to understand what the answer was?
Well, that's it. It's like when he's altering the shields, he just starts doing stuff on consoles.
Yeah.
And all that. And they've gone to warp, they're trying to run away, and he takes them out to warp to obviously divert power.
Yeah.
But Geordi looks at it, and Geordi can't understand what he's done. And Geordi goes, I don't know how he's done it, but the shields are 300%, have increased by 300% power.
Yeah, it is.
So what chance did Riker think he'd have?
Oh, exactly, yeah. I think Riker maybe he had a bet with someone like, I can find out what he did. They've all like a sweepstake on what he actually did. Like, I think he reversed the flow of the thingies. And then there's a cool bit where they have the briefing and they're talking about upgrading all the sensor arrays. And they say, we'll do them one by one. And Barclay sort of says, if we do this, we can do them all together instead of one by one. And he's sort of mocking them and everything. So it's kind of got this thing where he's getting a little bit more sure of himself, bordering on.
Well, he's becoming very sure of himself.
Yeah, but
he obviously knows what he's doing.
Yes, yeah, he's deservedly sure of himself at this stage, and it carries over to his acting. Like we see him doing another scene, and he's probably used the method here because he's clearly much more invested in it, and he gives this big monologue and everything. And I think Beverly's reaction to it is a bit over the top. She's practically crying at how great Barclay is in this scene. Beverly, you're the director. This is what you're meant to do: is get good performances out of people.
Yeah,
it shouldn't shock you.
But you're also the Doctor, and he's been hit by some strange alien probe on a shuttle, and now he's acting massively different. Do you think something might be on? And as a Doctor, you should be looking into that instead of acting with him.
I'm not a doctor from the future, but I'd hazard a guess straight away. You'd think maybe a concussion. Something's happened to him. He's had a trauma and he's acting differently. Could be a concussion.
Yeah.
But don't even go.
We know that you've had him in sickbay for a couple of minutes when he got back and you couldn't find anything. But maybe there's something a bit deeper that you need to look.
It's clearly developed since then. It's totally different. And you have that bit where, Troy describes it later as, he made a pass at me and all this. And he kind of does. But Troy says, oh, it was a good one. It's like, it wasn't, really. This is pretty bad. This is
in Star Trek. In Star Trek universe, that was a pretty good one.
True, yeah, and she's used to Riker just sort of mooning around over her and not really doing anything about it for 7 years. So, yeah, maybe this is, yeah. And then he's arguing with Einstein on the holodeck, and he's redoing all the equations and everything. And at this point, finally, Geordie, his best mate, decides this isn't normal, so let's go talk to the Doctor. And wouldn't you just know it, he's now the most evolved human being that's ever lived. So, maybe Beverly should have picked up on something a little bit earlier. Yeah. Who knows? But then I like Riker's suggestion when they have a meeting about it. Riker's like, well, let's lock him up. Like, hang on. That's a bit much.
Yeah, but they do need to. You obviously need to do something because, they should have the files of what happened with Gary Mitchell.
Yes,
from TOS when he was hit by something strange and he started to display the huge intellect and all that. So there could be, and we have seen that this can be dangerous, and Picard going, well, he hasn't done anything to endanger us yet, so let's just let him carry on doing whatever he wants, is a bit sort of hang about.
Yeah.
There needs to be a middle ground between Riker's, let's lock him up and throw away the key, and Picard's, no, let's let him get on and do whatever he wants. There should be some sort of restricted duty,
keep an eye
restricted
on
access to key systems.
Yeah.
And let's put him under security surveillance.
Yeah, something like that. He has to report in, or something.
Yeah.
I think Riker's more annoyed that he's been hitting on Troy. Riker gets all jealous and huffy about it.
Well, he does, he goes to her, you never said if he was successful or not. And he's obviously worried, like,
none of your business, Will. You've had your chance.
Yeah, you had your chance. You've moped about me for 4 years, not made a move.
Not made a move. You nearly had a kiss in Menage a Troy, but nothing came of that. So, no. You got no ownership of Deanna in this sense, Riker. So, no. Anyway. So, wouldn't you know it, again, you're right. They should have probably kept a closer eye because now he's taken over the ship with his fancy new neural interface, and Barclay's now.
This is strange, isn't it? He suddenly shoots off to the holodeck and he starts telling the computer what to do. And it's get me this seat, get me a device on my right hand, a device on my left, and set up a neural interface at so no such device. Oh, I'll explain it to you.
Yeah, this is how you make one. Off we go. And I presume it's because he's that much more advanced than everything now, and he's into the ship's systems, and that must be why it's so easy to take over the ship, because that shouldn't be that easy. I know Data does it every couple of episodes, but Data's more advanced. But so it's obviously once you're at a certain level of technical know-how, you're able to take over the Enterprise.
Yeah.
Because Barclay manages it. But he can't be removed now without dying, so they've got to leave him as part of the ship. And
But he's on a holodeck.
Yes.
Can't they just shut
it down?
Like,
I think
shut it down, or
I think it's
isolate it.
He says something about his brain waves are that much now that his brain isn't big enough to contain it, so it's had to go into the memory of the ship.
Into the main computer.
I mean, I think I'm not the greatest scientist in the world, or indeed any kind of scientist, but I'm pretty sure that the human brain is still better than any computer technology we have in terms of the amount of memory and the amount of processing and everything that it can do. So maybe that's implying that this is how much more advanced it is in the future, that the Enterprise literally can have more than one. And I suppose going back to our man Bashir, we store 6 people in it there.
And shipping a bottle with Moriarty.
Yeah, true. So for whatever reason, we can't turn it off. Barclay thinks he's been chosen for a special purpose and he's going to take him to new places. And there's this scene with Geordie in the Jeffries tube, and Geordie's got this weird like boiler suit on that you hardly ever see. I don't know where that came from. And
yeah, it's like, this is my sleeves rolled up, gonna get down and dirty.
Yeah,
suiting, but
serious engineering that I've got to do now.
Yeah, I've got one panel off.
Yeah. And Troy goes to speak to him, and you get that, like you say, going back to Gary Mitchell, there's this thing of he kind of sees them as children, and he wants them to trust him, but Troy says, the captain will do everything to stop you. And what Picard does end up doing is he sends Worf down to disconnect it. And it don't work out. Like, he does a bit of shooting around, but we've got force fields.
Yeah, he does say to Worf, I don't blame you for what you're about to try doing.
Oh, yeah.
I don't hold it against you. I know you're just doing your job.
Yeah, exactly. And we get sort of the good and bad of special effects at this point. Like, there's a really cool effect, like where the Enterprise is getting stretched. But then it's got this terrible slow-mo effect back on the thing. So we're getting great model effects and really bad sort of physical effects on the bridge. But the upshot of it all is they jump 30,000 light years, and they say it's the center of the galaxy. And
Janeway could have done with some of this.
She could have done with some of this. And this is, a couple of years after Star Trek V. So, is this an alternative version of that? Or, again, we've got a bit ahead. So maybe this is the same species.
Yeah.
The God.
No, I'm thinking that by this point, is this before Star Trek V or after?
No, this was a couple of years after. I checked that, so I was like,
yeah.
Right.
I think that they've just decided to ignore Star Trek V happened.
I think they probably have, and I think that idea is not without its merit.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. It is covered in Kirk's autobiography, which is a true book written by Captain Kirk.
Of course it is, absolutely. So, yeah, if Captain Kirk said it didn't happen, it didn't happen. But it is interesting that we're having the second crack at doing Centre of the Galaxy, and we're going with big floaty heads again. This one's much nicer anyway. Seems much more personal.
Yeah, and I got the impression this is more sort of like a projection instead of using the image viewer that they just sort of...
Yeah, I think...
that.
Yeah, I don't think it's physically there on the bridge.
Yeah, I don't think it's just a big floating head like what we had.
What I like about this, there's some really sort of subtle acting from Patrick Stewart, but it's all been a crisis, and, they've all been really worried and everything, but you can see a little sort of smile and a little twinkle in his eye that, oh, great, we found this new species and we're going to get a chance to do first contact with it. And you can tell that despite everything else going on, that's made him really happy that he's got this opportunity. And, of course, they release Barclay and it turns out that they're explorers and they upgraded him to bring him there.
Yeah, they're explorers, but they don't leave the home. They send out probes to bring other people. Now, I was thinking about this. Like, how badly would it go if the Klingons found the probe? And they did that to the Klingons.
Yeah.
How badly would it go if they found the Borg?
Yeah, it wouldn't go too great. It's lucky, really, that they stumbled across a Federation ship.
Yeah, and
pretty much everyone else, it could have gone badly.
Like, what you have it, like, the Argos array blew up because it couldn't deal with this program that it was trying to give them. So what happens if they bump into a pre-warp civilization with the probe? And obviously they can't get there, and the technology's not capable. So it takes someone over who can't make it go fast because they haven't got them sort of engines. So they all die when the ship blows up.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, there could be mass murderers.
It seems very It seems very haphazard to send probes out because it's obviously not scanning very well or that because like the Argos array is basically a big telescope.
Yeah,
it doesn't have engines and all that and warp drives and people on it. Yeah, it's gone there. It's tried to sort of reprogram that to go see them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like it's actually very clever as a probe of who it should introduce itself to.
Where it'll actually work. It's like just whatever it finds, it's like, I want to reprogram to do this.
Yeah, it's very haphazard. So
true. And then we
all
find
these missing ships, and it just
it's not the greatest plan. So we find out Barclay remembers everything, but he doesn't really understand it. And then a couple of things happen at the end that's weird. So Troy goes, we've got a date now. And it's, hang on. Earlier on, you told him you couldn't do that because it'd be unprofessional. Because he's a
No, she didn't actually. She she just went good night. She didn't tell him no.
I thought she said that she said, like, as your former counsellor, I wouldn't be comfortable.
No, she does say it, but I didn't think it was about the date.
I thought it was about that.
When it's talking about the date and all that, she goes, good night, Reg, and walked off.
Right, okay. Well, if that's the case, I'll let that one go. But it seems a little bit... now that he's not so confident and stuff...
Well, the thing is, though, that...
a little bit by going for a walk.
It's talking to Geordie. They're both in the bar. I know the drink's in for Hall and it can sort of like... The effects can be wiped out pretty quick. But Geordie goes, right, come on, Reg, we're on duty now. We've got so-and-so to do. And Troy goes, oh, no, we're going on a date instead. And, like, Geordie's his boss and goes, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You go knock work. No problem.
Maybe it's kind of like the doctor can order people about. Maybe the counsellor's got similar powers. But not to go on dates with people,
Yeah.
And then he goes over and somebody's playing chess and he moves the thing and goes, mate, in 6 moves. You'd be livid if someone came up and did that while you were playing a game.
Yeah.
Like,
this is our lunch hour.
Yeah.
This is what we want to do to enjoy it, and you just ruined it.
I've been trying to outthink him for hours, and you've just come over and Anyway. But no, it's a good fun episode. I like Barclay, and I think I do think that one's better than Hollow Pursuit.
Yeah.
So let's move over to DS9 then, and Rules of Acquisition. So first thing to say about this one is this is really typical of Deep Space Nine, not sort of conforming to what you would usually expect. Like, the first episode where we're formally introduced to the idea of the Dominion, and it's a comedy Ferengi episode.
Yeah.
You'd expect it to be a massive, big reveal, and if you compare it to Babylon 5, where you have the episode The Coming of the Shadows, and it's a big, massive huge event episode, and it really marks a turning point for the whole show and everything. Whereas this is a bit of a throwaway episode, but we just get that word, the Dominion, and it's the first real seed that's planted. And I think that's great. I think it's just so subversive to do it this way. And it's clearly well planned out that this is what they're doing. But we'll have a look at sort of what we find out and how it plays in and everything as we go through. But yeah, I just think that's very, very clever. So we start with something that, well, none of us really have none of us have legally experienced for a long time now. We've got a lock-in at a bar. Though I suppose technically it's never legal when you have a lock-in. So we wouldn't have been able to go in the bars to have a chance of a lock-in over the last year or so, is what I mean. But yeah, so Quark's having a bit of a lock-in. Morn's sleeping on the promenade, but he can't get in. And they're all in
that's it. Like Odo comes up and goes, Morn, you know you're not allowed to sleep on the promenade. See, and the first thing he does is try and get into Quark's.
Exactly. He probably thinks, it's morning time, it should be open again.
Yeah.
And this is where, like, your personal transporters from Discovery had come in really handy. Because can you imagine, like, you basically go out, have a skimful, you program your transporter. If I fall asleep at any point, you beam me back home. And that'd be great.
That'd be handy.
Yeah, that's a good idea. So when we get to 32nd century, there's going to be less alcohol-related vagrancy. Or there should be, if somebody's marking it well. And this is sort of the first time we see Dax interacting to this extent with the Ferengi. And this is something that we see time and time again, and it's a really good part of Dax's character, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously she's winning, and you have this whole thing, and it works really pertinently to the conversation with Dax, because they're talking about, it's Curzon that's beating us rather than Jadzia, because they can't accept that a woman's beating them. But obviously, that's going to tie in thematically with everything else that goes on in the episode, and whether...
But she does point out that she's actually a bit... Yeah, she does say, I learnt to play from Curzon, but I'm better than him.
Yeah, and I believe it, absolutely. And we meet Pell, who's the new Ferengi, and he's got this idea... and it's quite good. It's quite sneaky, is this? I mean, it's...
I've worked in pubs, and we used to do this.
Yeah. Go on.
We used to put out, like when I worked at Queen's, we used to send out big platters of chips.
Yeah.
On a tea time, and throw loads of salt over them before they went out. But you tried the chips at the Queen's, them big chunky homemade chips we used to do. And they used to wipe out, and it's like bosses there, they love it, and place would be heaving with them drinking all night. And it's like, that's cost us about £2, and look how much they're drinking now. Yeah, exactly. And not one of them has complained about how much salt's on the chips.
Well, it's like when you get, again, something we've not had for a while, but when you get your football tournaments on, and a lot of pubs will bring out something to eat at half-time.
Yeah.
It makes you thirstier, but also, if you've had something to eat at half-time, you're not going to go home after the match for your tea, you're just going to stay in the pub. So,
you're going to stay for another few pints.
Yeah, very clever by Pell, these little things that make you thirstier. And we get reintroduced to Zek, who turns up, and he wants Quark to lead the Ferengi expansion into the Gamma Quadrant. And this is interesting because even though we've got the Federation, who are all about exploring and things like that, as we know, the Federation is a moneyless society. And so you've got this capitalist society, and they're the ones who are actually pushing more to explore these new places because the incentive for them is greater. It's
it's more trade
over there.
Now,
So
to be fair, there's got to be, like, it's been talked about, and this, all that. It's an awful line that was put into Star Trek that money doesn't exist. Because it's left all sorts of gaps of, well, how do they deal with these? And, like, all the Starfleet officers, when they're off duty, do go to Quarks, and Quark does them want paying. So they've got to get money from somewhere. Or the Starfleet officers, do their replicators just go, oh, I'm off to Quarks tonight. Oh, I'll just print up some Latinum.
Yeah, well, we find out, though, don't we, that you can't replicate
Can't replicate it.
It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, you've got to assume... We should probably do, like, a whole episode on this at some point, because there's so many things to consider with it. But you've got to assume that it's something to do with the barter system. So...
Yeah.
You know, the Federation will provide what it can for these planets, but in the ones that have got a monetary society, they must say, well, you know, we need money so we can operate there, because clearly, like you say, the people who live on DS9
need money to operate.
They can get what they want from the Federation replicators, but they can't go to Quarks for free. So
all the restaurants want money, and
but I feel like in a way,
and all the little Bajoran stalls want money.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like this is kind of DS9's way of, and they do it a lot, particularly with the Ferengi episodes, of saying, like, yeah, the Federation idea is brilliant and everything, and it works, but there are also things that can work in a capitalist society, and in this case, they're pushing more to go into an unexplored place because there's a financial incentive rather than just
we want to use the station as a diplomat to host a diplomatic meeting with these people.
Yeah, the Dozai, and you get all the It builds and builds, doesn't it? That Zek says he wants Quark to buy loads of this wine or chula berries.
10,000 barrels.
And it keeps growing, and every time he speaks to him, it's more that he wants and more that he wants. And Pell sort of comes on as an advisor to Quark at this stage and knows what the Grand Nagus is up to, because he says, like, you know, basically, the reason he's not doing it is because if it goes wrong, he wants someone to be the fall guy for it. And you get this really funny scene where Rom keeps trying to fire Pell. And it's obviously jealousy because Pell's got Quark's ear, to coin a phrase with Ferengi. But he keeps saying, no, you're fired. And Quark keeps going, no. And Ron wants to be the big advisor, but Quark's gone with Pell. And the big reveal of the early part of the episode is that Pell's actually a Ferengi female, which I believe it's the first Ferengi female we've seen at this stage.
It is the first time we've seen a Ferengi female. We do see others later on, but
yes, we do. Yeah, specifically Moogie that we're going to meet later. And I kind of feel like Pell's storyline is a bit of a dry run of what we get with Moogie later on. The idea that there's a female Ferengi who's actually better at business than the men. And actually be the one pulling the strings.
Yeah, and like the women can do business. She's better than a lot of them, is Pell, but she's capable of doing business along with the best of them.
And as when we get into the Moogie episodes later, she ends up practically running the show. She's the one who's telling the Grand Nagus what to do, basically. And then we meet the Dozai, and this is one of the weirdest alien designs.
Now, I've put a photo on for us.
Yeah, let's have
because they're definitely one of the most colourful, aren't they?
Yeah, like what is good? I mean, is that meant to be makeup or is it meant to be natural markings?
Now, I think it's makeup because you see a number of the Dozai. And they've all got different markings on their faces. So I wonder if it's if it shows some sort of rank.
Yeah, maybe.
If they've got a hierarchy system or whatever, and it just shows.
It always makes me think of a deck of playing cards. Like they look like They look like jacks and aces of diamonds and stuff. So maybe it is. And one of them, the male Dozai, is played by Brian Thompson, who's one of these great bit part actors who you will have seen in absolutely everything. Like perhaps best known, the alien bounty hunter in the X-Files, or he was the baddie in Cobra, that Stallone film. But yeah, this guy was in absolutely everything, and he's in Star Trek more than once. But yeah, this is one of his appearances. I always like it when Brian comes up.
Yeah, it's pretty much anything from the 80s and 90s he's been in.
Definitely. And yeah, they basically want to deal with Zek, not the middleman. And it goes back and forth. And we get a bit where Kira and Dax are chatting about the Ferengi. And again, Dax is presenting this much more. This is sort of part of the rehabilitation of the Ferengi that DS9 did, where it's like, Kira's listing off all these things, the sexist, the horrible. And Dax is like, yeah, they are all those things, but you can have a lot of fun with them, if you accept he's going to be trying to scam you over for money.
Well, he's already done this, hasn't he, Zach, in this episode? Because you have, where he wants a meeting and all that, and he's annoying Kira already, and the Cisco then, he goes, what if I offered 50,000 tons of...
Oh, yeah.
So-and-so to Beijing and all that for us to host the meeting here, and okay, yeah, that's good. And then as he's walking away, right, so what's that at 25% discount? And he goes, you said you were giving it. Okay, what about cost? No. How about you give it as a gift and I allowed you to have your meeting here?
This is the thing. Cisco's always really good, I think, at getting the best of the Ferengi. He always seems to know how to play it to get what he wants, to make them behave a little bit. I like how he does it with Quark right back in the first episode.
Yeah, he knows that they're corrupt. He knows that everything's about money, and it's like, you've got to be firm with the Ferengi.
Yeah, and I think Cisco does a really good job with it. And then we get another Tongo scene, and we get Zek trying to cheat at it, which is quite funny. He's meant to be the most Ferengi of all Ferengis, and he's not very good at it. And this is where we get we actually need more of the wine. And Dax realizes that Pell is into Quark at this point. And then they have that great chat in the Replimat. And again, I think this is quietly a really, really progressive scene, because you get Dax says, clearly you're in love with Quark. Does he know? And Pell says he doesn't even know I'm a woman. And then Dax is surprised that she's a woman. So
what? You're a woman? So she's thinking.
She's assuming
you're a bloke who fancies him.
Yeah, she's assuming that Pell is homosexual, and that doesn't raise an eyebrow to Dax.
Yeah,
nor should it. But for 90s TV, that's really quite progressive. And then the actual surprise.
It was very progressive. It was very progressive for the time, and I don't think a lot of people at the time actually realised what was being said there.
No, because it's really low key. It's easily missed. But her surprise is that Pell is actually female, not that what she assumed was a male had feelings for Quark. So, yeah, really good little sequence there. And DS9 doesn't, a little bit more now. There's been a lot of reappraisal, but it doesn't always get the credit it deserves with things like this. So the Dozai have left and everything. So Pell and Quark have got to go to the Gamma Quadrant. And Pell tries to talk to Quark a little bit on the shuttle. Nothing really comes of it. And then, meanwhile, Rom starts investigating, and Rom finds Pell's little box that she keeps her fake ears in.
Like, he's not looking for that. He's looking for anything. To sort of, that he can use against Pell, thinking it's a him at the time.
Yeah, exactly. He's just looking for...
He just wants to be... He wants to be a nasty bastard because he's jealous.
Yeah, exactly. And Rom's another one of these characters in DS9 that he develops a lot, but I think it takes a while for Rom to settle into the character that we know. Like this is
I think
more of
they
an
do like
here.
like the next episode after this one is one where you
Oh, yeah.
realise how cunning and clever Rom is,
Yes,
because he's breaking
definitely.
into places and all that, and he
Yeah.
lets slip to Quark that I break into your store cupboard. Oh, I use this to get into your latinum vault.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good episode, the next one as well. But unfortunately, nothing to do with the Dominion War, so we'll have to come back to that another time. So back into the Gamma Quadrant then, Quark makes a big scene, kicks over the barrels, and this eventually gets... Brian admits that we can't do that deal.
Yeah, like Zach has insisted that he gets 100,000 barrels of.
And obviously, we find out long term that this is what Zek's playing at. He's not bothered for this deal. He just wants to keep pushing it to the point that the Dozai are going to have to say, we can't do it. We need to refer you to someone in the Dominion. And this is how Zek is doing it. But it's putting Quark in a bad position that he's got to keep trying to get this deal that's never going to materialise.
But this also opens up gives you the implication that Zach is already aware of the Dominion at this point through the Gamma Quadrant. He just doesn't know how to contact them. The Federation at this point, and everyone else, as far as we're aware, have no clue that the Dominion exist.
Exactly. The Ferengi have been doing a lot more research to the Gamma Quadrant, or they understand the political climate of it better than anyone at this stage. And we get the scene with Pell and with Quark, and there's a lot of humour in it where Pell keeps trying to stop them having to go to sleep, and let's have a toast, let's do this, and keeps quoting acquisition.
Quark's off to get undressed and all that for bed.
Yeah. And again, though, we get the bit Pell kisses Quark at this point, and it's quite a while before Quark discovers that Pell's female. But again, there's no sort of shock horror reaction from Quark, and no, like, this is probably the wrong word to use, but from a male character, if another male character kissed them at this point in 90s TV, you'd almost expect, like, almost revulsion to come from them. Like, if you look at the episodes of Friends, for example, where it's implied that Joey and Chandler, or another character assumes Joey and Chandler are gay, and you get really shocked, oh my God, But again, there's none of that. Quark doesn't seem fazed by this in that way at all, which again, really progressive. But obviously, they're interrupted, and this is where they find out about the Dominion. And this is where Quark's got, right, I know what Zek's been playing at now. And he's got the name of the contact, which he knows.
Where she tells him, doesn't she? Yeah. The reason he won't give you 100,000 barrels, it isn't because he doesn't want to, it's because he can't. He hasn't got that many.
And that's it. If he'd have had 100,000, Zek would have said, we need 1 million now. Just to get to the point that he has to give them the name of another contact. And then Pell tries to talk to Quark. Quark sort of brushes it off. Didn't happen. They get back to the station, and Quark manages to cut himself a really good deal. Like, he's going to get a whacking great percentage of the profits that Zek's going to make from this deal. But Rom kind of spoils it all. There's a great sort of visual gag where Quark keels over in the background, and it's one of these falls that you only get in drama where they just fall over absolutely bolt upright and straight over.
What's his name? From Only Fools and Horses,
Yes, it's David Jason.
Yeah, David Jason. He does it best, but it's a comedy fall. But it's one of the most difficult falls to do. Yeah,
where you remain absolutely straight. And I'm sure anyone who's listening to this podcast in England knows exactly what we're talking about. But anyone who doesn't, just look on YouTube. Del Boy falls through the bar, and it's one of the greatest comedy sequences ever in a TV show. It's phenomenal, and like you say, it's all because of the way he takes the fall. But Armin Shimmerman doesn't do a bad one here at all. And you get the thing, Quark's Rom's obviously like, well, we've got to expose Pell, but Quark's like, no, if you do that, that's my deal, knackered. So I don't want that going on. And he blackmails Rom into not doing it. You can have the
I'll give you the bar.
Yeah. And then you do have a sequence where he talks to Pell and they're discussing why they can't be together. And he offers her money to go and set up her own life and everything. And it's all to do with Ferengi custom, basically, isn't it? It's, you know...
Yeah.
You don't fit
Women it's not just Ferengi custom. It's actually law. She goes, it's not against the law. And he goes, actually, it is. It's totally against the law. You're not allowed... Women aren't allowed to make profit. Or aren't allowed to earn profit.
This is the thing, though, where we see that Quark isn't as much of a stickler for Ferengi laws as he likes to make out sometimes, because he's, apart from trying to protect himself and protect his own deal, but he clearly doesn't want to shop her to the Negus and have her arrested and stuff. It's like, no, go somewhere else where you can make profit. Go to the Gamma Quadrant where they don't know and everything. But Pell comes to say goodbye to the Negus and whips off her ears and throws them at him. Zek has this great mirror. He goes, female!
They do it a few times, don't they? You see it with in a few Ferengi episodes where as soon as there's a female, and if they're not naked and that, they all freak out. And
yeah, it's brilliant. And Wallace Shawn's great. It's a really good bit. And the way it all winds up is pretty good, because Quark's in trouble because he's taken advice off Pell, but that also extends to Zek, because Zek allowed Pell... Well,
Zek is like, you're both going to jail and all that, and you won't be getting any of the profits, and Quark goes, but I didn't know, and he goes, stupidity isn't an excuse.
But
then he turns it round to Zek and he goes, but she was acting as your representative.
Yeah.
But I didn't know. Stupidity isn't an excuse. Oh, well done, Quark.
Well played. You've got him. And so obviously it ends, as many of Quark's business ventures do, with him not actually making any more money. But at least no long-term harm done.
You often actually think that if Quark, like, I know at the very end of it, Quark does sort of leave the Ferengi Empire and go alone. And I imagine he'll do really well, because a lot of where he loses all his profit is because he's a Ferengi, and the Ferengi government take it off him.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, once Liquidator Brunt comes into it, Yeah, you're right. A lot of the time, if he could just bend the rules a little bit more, if he'd have just kept Pell around, he'd have probably made untold sums of money. But yeah, so Pell asks Quark to go with her. Obviously, they're not going to. But Dax realizes Quark's going to miss Pell and everything. So it's quite a bittersweet ending.
Like you have an end. You have like Quark and Pell saying bye to each other, and she's obviously still Ferengi and all that, because they're kissing him. She's there giving him Umax and goes, "Oh, and I will be taking them 10 bars of Latinum."
Right as well. Yeah, he offered her it. So absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a shame, really.
You've lost your profits, but I'm taking mine.
Yeah. It's a shame we don't see Pell again, really. She's a good character. It could have been interesting. But I think
it would have been interesting for her to come back as sort of like she's left the Ferengi Alliance, gone solo, and Zak's allowed this. And if she came back as like mega wealthy and all that, and quite trying to get on with her and are not interested.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. I think maybe a lot of the stuff they do with Moogie, with her earning profits and maybe potential storylines they might have had for Pell found the way out through the Moogie storylines. But yeah, she's an interesting character.
I'm not sure who played Pell actually, because maybe she went on to do. Maybe she went on to do other things and wasn't available for so they had to come up invent Moogie.
Yeah, it does seem like a character that we should have seen more of. In terms of the Dominion, then, all we really find out at this stage is if you want to do business in the Gamma Quadrant, you need to know the Dominion. So
you need to deal with the Dominion.
Yeah, the first hint that whoever they are, they're very, very powerful. So we'll leave it there in terms of what we know about.
Yeah, but like I say, it's quite obvious that the Ferengi were already aware of the Dominion at this point.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
The whole point of this is them trying to get access to the Dominion.
I've heard about it. It's I've heard these rumors and everything else. So yeah, it leaves it. Obviously, the name the Dominion is a memorable name, so it sticks in your mind, and we're going to hear it again a couple more times this season before we actually get to meet a member of the Dominion. So next week, I think we're sticking with Barclay, aren't we? So we've done Ship in a Bottle, but I think the next one's Realm of Fear, the weird transporter ones. So we'll take a look at Realm of Fear.
Then I think after that we're going to be moving back to Voyager and sticking with Barclay.
We'll
Voyager and Barclay's holodeck for a bit of a tie-in.
Eventually through Barclay, yeah. And then DS9, we're looking at Sanctuary, which is the next time we hear about the Dominion. So that's what we'll be up to next time. If you want to get in touch with us in the meantime, you can tweet us at RetrekPod, send us an email, retrekpod@gmail.com, or you can join the Facebook group. Just search for Retrek on Facebook. Elliot's still working away on his Star Trek models on the YouTube channel.
Yeah. First bits of Voyager got done. Where are we? If you didn't see it, Enterprise has all its decals on now. I've just got a base to build for it, but it's actually got the name on now.
Brilliant.
Which is a nice point.
If you want to see all the engineering that's gone into that, that's on the YouTube channel. But thanks.
I'm busy writing. I'm writing the program at the moment for the electronics for Voyager.
Excellent. So thanks for trekking with us this time, and we will see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fascinating.